you're about. Tune in for direction. Let your spirit shout. Unlock your power. Face what you've been through. Heal that trauma. Make yourself anew. Stronger from within. Oh yes, you can be.
Hey.
Hey, everybody.
What's up? What's
How
up?
you
What's
doing?
up?
What's
Yeah.
happening?
No, I'm doing pretty good. How about y'all?
Doing pretty darn good. Got a glare
Some
going off
fabulous
from
over
this
here.
light over here. I feel like I need to turn my head to the side to keep the glasses from. Oh, there it is. I got rid of the glare, but now I'm looking like I'm talking to somebody over here.
Yep, looking sideways.
How's your week going so far?
So far,
Well,
so good for me. Just just being very intentional on personal growth and management of my time, and really understanding what's going on with me, why I make the decisions that I make, why I am where I am, all those things, just being very intentional about what's going on with me, who I am, and how I'm behaving, showing up every day in the world.
That's what's up. I think we're all on that journey. So today's episode is episode 12. We are still on our trauma from everyday encounters series, and we got a viewer question. And so tonight's topic
Oh,
is triggered or toxic. I'm sorry, triggered or toxic when feedback feels like fight or feels like a threat. So we had a viewer question, and I'm gonna grab my phone and read the viewer question so that we
okay.
know what the question was. Hold on, just a second. Let me get to it. I thought I had it already pulled up, but I guess when I touched on something else, it went on down to the bottom of the stream. So it says, "Dear Healing Help Desk, I've noticed that sometimes I overreact to feedback or get defensive with coworkers, especially when I feel criticized. I went through a toxic job and relationship in the past where I was constantly belittled, and now I worry that my reactions are making me a toxic coworker in my new role. How can I tell if my past trauma is resurfacing at work, and what can I do to avoid becoming the problem?" Woo!
That's a good one.
That's deep.
Yeah.
it's loaded.
That is deep.
It's
So
loaded.
before we dive into the question, of course, we need to do our intros. Hey, fam, I am your girl, Jay, the Heal Chemist. Welcome back to the Heal and Help Desk, where we unpack life. We walk through some steps for some healing and everything in between. We're still moving through, like I said, our Trauma from Everyday Encounters series tonight. And this one may hit close to home for some people. This one may be a gut punch for some people, but we're here to all share our experiences, our knowledge, our wisdom, and get on the other side of some of our behaviors that don't necessarily serve us. So I'm going to pass the mic to either one of my cohorts, whichever one of y'all want to grab it and intro yourselves. Feel free.
All right. Well, I'm Joe DeRoe, the researcher, the man with many hats. I'm here to help you along your healing journey. And yes, I think this could be a good topic because I got a little to talk about on this one.
Awesome, awesome. I'm Just Antoine. I'm excited to be here with
Hear
adrulix.com.
you.
And it's just amazing to be in a space where we can talk about these things, right? And unpack some of the things that's going on an everyday basis with us, and then come up with some logical ways, some step-by-step strategies to deal with what's going on in everyday life. And so uh, I'm loving the topic. I'm glad to be here representing the Drulix.
That's all right with us. So, uh, as the question posed, we are talking about feedback, right? And talking about not the kind of schedule when your manager wants to give you some feedback. We're talking about in the moment when someone offers a suggestion for change with something that we're working on, or corrects us, or we perceive we're being corrected, or challenges our work, and suddenly we are spiraling, out of control. So the question, I think, hits home for a lot of people, and I feel like maybe sometimes we all kind of go through instances where that may apply to us. I know I can speak for myself. There are some times when, and the closest person to you is often the person that sparks that type of a reaction internally, even if you don't react on the outside, but an internal reaction. But it seems like this person is actually reacting externally, in short, with their coworkers, or disregarding the suggestions of the team because they feel attacked. So first off, I want to thank the listener for being that self-aware and vulnerable. That in and of itself is healing. And the truth is that feedback doesn't land the same for everyone. If you have ever had a job or a person where criticism was used to control you or belittle you or manipulate you, your brain learns that feedback equals threat. Like I got to be ready to put my dukes up, not necessarily physically, but verbally, maybe mentally, and even emotionally. Sometimes it's just some passive aggressive behaviors. So there's a number of ways that our bodies react and we react to perceived threat. What stands out to me about that is, and we've talked about it a million times, the book, The Body Keeps the Score. If you have not checked it out, please do. But your body remembers. So, and I don't know if you guys know this, Joe and Antoine, but studies show that emotional pain, like rejection and criticism, actually activates the same part of the brain as physical pain. So when someone says, hey, you could have done that differently, your mind might hear you're not good enough or you failed again. And instantly you feel, or your body or your brain reacts in a way that, it's a gut punch. Somebody hit you, somebody hurt you.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had to do a little research. I'm stealing your job, Joe. Stealing your job. But I was
Well,
actually
yeah,
just kind
it's
of learning more about that. And that was just one of the things that came up. So I wasn't looking at that specifically. So how do you guys know it's trauma talking when you're in certain situations? What are some of the signs? Like, what are some of the things that you do and when you're like, oh, okay, wait, maybe I'm overreacting, or,
Well,
well.
oh, go ahead, Antoine.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Um, well, I could say that it will be trauma for one of my experiences. Not recently, but in the past, I know it would be a trauma response when you do get feedback, and this per se that you feel attacked because it kind of attacks your character from like, and again, it's not the feedback that you set up the time with your manager and they talk with you. This could be either from a coworker doing the feedback, or maybe sometimes a totally different department that doesn't even know you can give you feedback. And I know for myself, I used to feel attacked when it came to feedback like that because I feel like, oh, you attacking my character. Like I am not doing
um,
my job well, and I know I show up every day, I clock in every day, doing this job to my best ability. And when I read this feedback, it's basically saying I ain't doing shit. So that used to I used to really overreact from that a lot until it took me some time to be like, and like I said, this it wasn't just a day, a week, or a couple of months. It took me some time to understand, like, you know what, I'm taking this as a personal attack, and this could be some from trauma that I experienced in real life with maybe people outside the work, or maybe friends or whoever, and I'm associating that with this work. And I had to learn how to
Mm,
differentiate, how to separate the work feedback, because it's only geared to the work. It's not geared to as you as a person. But I didn't know that at the time. So yeah, that's when I learned, like, hold on, I know I'm not like this on the outside, and they're saying I'm one way on the inside. Let me try to separate that. But yeah, that's how I noticed it for myself.
wow, that's
Awesome,
big.
awesome. Yeah, hard work is hard work. Hard work is hard work. And when we start getting feedback, when we from coworkers and people, whoever they may be, sometimes we feel attacked. But when we start doing hard work, then we start welcoming feedback, right? Because we want to know how we're showing up. We want to know what's going on, how we're being perceived, and things of that nature. And some things may be valid, some things may not be valid, but you're open, you start becoming open to people saying things, and it's not going to always feel good, right? And but when you start doing that self-reflection, which the person who posed the question, it it definitely seems that they are aware of what's going on. There's something going on with them, and that awareness, things started in the right direction. You're right, starting to make some changes, starting to make some adjustments, and so hats off to our uh, the person who posed the question. They're in a good space. I know they're moving toward, they want to be in a better space, and that's even great as well. And so, but kudos just to acknowledge that, hey, I am feeling threatened. I am feeling some type of way, and I may be responding out of order. And so, um, what I'm learning to do is take a step back and analyze what is going on. Am am I looking at this the right way? Am I pulling in all the right facts? Do I have enough facts to make a opinion about this? One way or the other. Are they attacking me, or are they telling me, trying to assist me in making me better, right? Or whatever the project may be that I'm, responsible for adding value to. So just taking that time to evaluate what is going on and the reason behind it, and um, gather all the facts before you start making decisions or responding or reacting to what is going on and what is being said. And when you practice that, sometimes you're not going to get it right, right? You're practicing. And so sometimes you're not going to get it right. But the more times you practice the right things, guess what? You're going to start getting it more right. You're going to start taking that time and reevaluating. And when people say something, ma'am, could you tell me why you said that? Can you give me an example of that? Because sometimes people say stuff, and they can't give you an example, and then you could just dismiss that at that time. Well, when you find out, when you can give me an example of that, that will um, that will satisfy me. Or you don't have to go that far in it, but just please give me an example when you come up with that example of me doing that or me being that way. Feel free to share with me. So because I'm actually doing personal work on me, and I'm always looking for ways to improve. So practicing being aware and looking for ways to improve will put you in that light where you can ask those right questions, and you can start taking criticism better, right? Because you got a different mindset, you got a different objective for it.
Absolutely. And when anytime any of us have been in a toxic job or a toxic relationship, we
Hmm.
actually carry survival patterns into new spaces. What we've learned to do to survive or to just get through or get by in certain situations, we carry those into new spaces. And we kind of talked about this before, like hypervigilance, perfectionism, defensiveness. So these habits, they actually serve you at some point when you are under pressure, but now they be keeping you guarded when nobody's even swinging at you at this point. So, part of
Yes.
getting on the other side of that is really listening to what the person is saying and how they're saying what they're saying, right? Because some of us don't even pause to hear how the words are coming out of their mouths. We just automatically, if you're correcting me, if you're contributing anything that does not say what I've done is perfect and I don't need to do anything more, we automatically hear with that filter of, oh, that wasn't good enough. You're not good enough. You need to do better, or I can do better than you. In some instances, it becomes an internal competition in your
Hmm.
mind when this other person is simply saying, hey, I see what you did there. And not everybody's going to say it that way. If you've got a good leader, they'll say something to the effect of, I see what you did, and I like that direction. Can we add thus and so? Or, here is right where I feel like it might benefit us as a team to pivot, but you're not always going to have somebody that knows how to say those things. So those are the things you need to say to yourself. Are they saying, and is what they're saying going to improve that process, especially in the workplace, right? If the
Right.
information offering you is going to enhance what it is you've already started or what you've laid the foundation for, you could look at it that way. They're just building off my foundation. So you got to learn how to change that inner dialogue. What happens when you're in those spaces is over time you stop trusting yourself. So you start thinking to yourself, why can't I handle this simple feedback? Or maybe you don't see it as simple feedback, or maybe people will say you're too sensitive. So what happens is because you are triggered when you react, people will compound that. So they'll say stuff like, you're being sensitive, or, I don't understand what the problem is. I'm just trying to give you some feedback, which makes you more defensive. And really,
Yes.
they're trying to tell you, hey, I'm just trying to help. So when you start hearing words like that, it might even just be an opportunity for you to go, okay, somebody said I'm being too sensitive. In what ways could that be true? Instead of, sometimes we say, well, we should ask ourselves, is there any truth to that? And I'm saying change that up just a little bit, especially if you think you might be becoming the toxic person. Instead of saying, is there any truth? Ask yourself, in what ways can that be true? Assume that there is some truth and say, how can I, from my perspective, see where there's truth to what they're saying about how I'm responding and reacting? What happens with trauma when it rewrites your sense of safety, your body is trained to expect harm in spaces from where it should come, or where there should be care. So when you're in certain environments, you can kind of say to yourself, in this environment, I should be safe. And we're not talking about, hear us clearly, we're not talking about instances in which the workplace is toxic. You do have somebody that is, being dismissive, disrespectful, like we talked about in our last episode. We're talking about when you are the potential toxic person. I'll just use those words, right? So we're going to talk about, and I would like to pass the mic back to you, gentlemen, to just kind of start talking about some of the tools to be able to respond instead of reacting. No, Miss Nova is sitting up here. I guess I said something that resonates with her because she popped her head up. What do you think are some of the? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to talk about incident with me. I had a instance in a this past weekend, and it was actually at my church, and there were some things going on, and I didn't know what was really going on, but you know, I almost left. I didn't really almost leave, but the thought was, hey, they don't appreciate you. You should just leave, right? Because things wasn't moving the way I thought they should be moving, right? And I had a lot of questions. But so I battled against the thoughts that were coming to my head, and I said, hey, you know what? I don't have all the facts. So the story that I'm trying to make up in my head, it doesn't make it true, right? Even though it's playing in my head, doesn't make it true. And so I started, I said, I told myself, I don't have all the facts. Let me just stay here and make sure my face is adjusted, right? And enjoy being here, right? And be intentional about being a blessing. And so probably about 30 minutes later, a person walked up to me and said, hey, we were talking about you last night, and everything is all right. We're gonna put you here, this, that, and the other. And so had I left, I would have never had that conversation, right? Because I would have been in my feelings, and I left out, and I jumped the gun because I didn't have all the facts, and I may not have had that conversation for another 2-3 weeks. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But so that's what I would say. One thing is step back, right? And evaluate what is truly happening. Do I have enough facts? Am I telling myself a story? When we get into the fight or flight mode, our ways, our reasoning, the cognitive mental space that we need to reasoning is no longer right there, right? It's blocked out because we're in the fight or flight mode. And so when we sense our heart starting to race, right? When we start to perspire and it ain't hot, you know what I'm saying? Watch our body. Our body will
it's about to get hot.
That's right.
Something is going on here, right? And so just take that time and say, you know what? I need to take a little break. I need to walk outside. I need to go to the restroom, blah, 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 whatever you need to do. If you can't stay in that space and take that time, but you need to take a little time, step back, evaluate what's going on, evaluate why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and ask yourself, do I have enough facts to validate this, right? And again, it's a practice. So that's off the top right there.
Awesome. I think those are some really, really good steps. And that's
Sure.
really good reflection. Some reflection methods, like, But I'm gonna let Joe give his input here.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
could, so I can say with this question, it hits home for me. Um, because at one point, like I said, a couple years back, I was like, again, I didn't take criticism well because I knew I put 100% into everything I'd done, and just someone just saying something off the cusp and out of ordinary from what I do, that had me like, hell no, this and this and that. But I could say that a recent, no, it's not too recent, but yeah, I'll say a recent event at one of my jobs. You know, we all get feedback reviews, so I'm thinking, yeah, I'm doing my work. I'm working hard. I don't mind feedback because I'm open. I'm to a point where I'm open for feedback and not negative criticism. I'm for positive criticism. Like that's what I'm looking for. Like, okay, I might have messed up on something and this is how I could have done better. So when I first encountered this feedback, it was fully negative and not an ounce of positivity in it. So I'm sitting here reading this. I'm like, I said, oh no, they didn't. I said, what? I said, everything in my mind was just racing and going, and I felt like you know how people tell you to, you do need to step back before you write that angry email, because my email was going to
mm,
go directly to that person who gave me that feedback.
right.
It was gonna go really quick. And I said, hold on. I said, let me breathe. Let me take a step back because I'm taking this as a personal attack again. And I know it's not a personal attack. So the things that I had to do for myself was I had to actually read this email feedback again thoroughly to make sure I understand each and every point they're trying to make. And I will say some
Mm,
of it I agreed with and some of I didn't. So when I did get to that point, I started making notes on my own. Like it's kind of like I still had a fight for myself, but now I'm not in a I gotta catch you moment. You know, it's like I'm not in
right, right,
that
right.
mode. Like I gotta catch you because you said something I didn't like.
You
So
about to get
oh yeah, you about to get cut. So I just took it upon myself to everything they've written down just to review it, and then so as long as I have my own rebuttal, like, hey, I hear what you're saying. I'm reading what you're saying in this email, but I how I say it, I do this process according to such and such, such and such, such and such. I backed it up with evidence because I knowing
oh,
me,
that's
if
a
I
good
can get
one.
the evidence and the process and procedures, that makes me feel good because I'm like, nah, you are the person who did it wrong. You reviewed it wrong now. And I got the evidence to back it up. And
Right.
what can anyone say once you have the evidence and process there? That's the way I counteract the negative feedback. I'm like, hey, it's right here. And
You get
even
your
if there
facts
is
straight.
not
Oh, nothing work, nothing better than coming with receipts.
exactly, you got to have your receipts, and even if there's not a process and a process guide, I go back and say, hey, when was our meeting for such and such that we posted this as an internal department? Come back here. I reach out to my manager, say, hey, do we supposed to work on something like this? So what I'm trying to say is I for the negative feedback, I counteract with evidence, receipts, and get my facts together. So at the same time, with that is allowed me to go to the people who either started the meeting with these facts that we have had, or I talk to my coworkers who probably take probably way better notes than me to understand if I'm looking at this process correctly too. So that kind of
Right.
also brings that levels me out and say, oh, okay, maybe I did misunderstand it. Because when I'm talking to a coworker who we're doing the work constantly together, I don't feel like they're out to get me because we're in the same boat.
Right. Right.
And the
They're not
feedback
the
comes
enemy, is
for
basically
higher.
what you're saying.
That's right. And the feedback comes for higher tier to senior tier employees. So they don't know me opposed to my coworkers I work with. So that also helps me out. Like, okay, maybe I did look at this process wrong, and maybe I misunderstood it. So then I go back to the feedback. I said, I understand.
Hmm,
So that's how
that's
I go
awesome.
about now doing it.
Right, right. And what that does is it helps you, right? It offers you clarification, not just on what it is that the other person or the team may be trying to communicate, but it also helps you with clarification with regard to who you are and how you're showing up in that space. So I
Yes.
love what you guys are saying there, because it really is about recognizing you and how you're showing up in these spaces. And even in, sometimes we can do things in a way that's not necessarily wrong. It may be by the book, it may be by procedure, and it may be at the time with the information you had, it was the best route that you thought that you should take forward. And somebody may come and say, hey, I feel like we could have done this in this situation. And immediately, like, what you mean? I did it by the book. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. And we can kind of take offense. And I'm saying that part of what we can do and what I recommend doing, and one of the things I practice is I do what I call reframing the moment. So when I feel like I'm being attacked, or I'm hearing that, what I'm hearing is making me feel like I'm being attacked, and we know what that feels like. It feels like you got to defend yourself. You got to jump out there. You got to put your shield up. You got to, put your armor up. In my head, I will say, I'm not being attacked. This is just information. It's not a character judgment. I'm just getting information. It's just more tools for me to add to my chest. It's more ways for me to tap in, and understanding that there's more than one way to do things. And there are some of us who cannot hear that our way is just not absolutely the best way, right? And it could be that there's more than one absolute best way. You could have, okay, we could do it this way or that way, and either way would be appropriate action, and the outcome would be similar or the same. So just kind of understanding that. And I'm not going to say this because the internet will come for me. You know the old saying, there's more than one way to skin a, and I'm going to leave it right there, because y'all can't play with cats. And if you don't
No,
know
you
what I'm
can't.
talking about, if you have never seen the movie Don't F with Cats, I believe it was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still there. Go on over there and watch that, and you'll understand why you don't do nothing with regard to anything negative about or to a cat and its surface on the internet, because they're going to find you.
That's right.
Okay. But
Oh,
back to back to the nature at hand.
and
I feel like go ahead.
I
I'm
do want to
sorry.
add one more thing. My
Sure.
bad, it didn't mean to interrupt. The other thing I would like to add that I have noticed that, and people probably can use this as a tool as well, is if you're getting negative feedback for something, or you get feedback in general that you feel I don't know. Again, I can only speak to my work, how I do mine, because we got processes and that. What I do ultimately is when someone shoots me back with some feedback I don't feel is right, or maybe I misunderstood, I do take my time to reach back out to that individual
Mhm.
and say, hey, I understand that you said I did this process policy wrong. Can you show me what you're talking about, what I could do better?
Right. Right.
Because that in the hand, it puts the ball, and really it kind of throws the ball like back at them too. It's like, hey, I see you wrote bad about me, but I'm wanting to learn. Can you show me? Because I'm asking you to help me with something. Now, if they don't help you, or say, well, everybody should know this, or something negative, we're not gonna say everything's gonna be negative per se, but if that is a negative reply coming back, then you know that, hey, at least you put yourself out there saying you're open to learn what you did, and if they can show you. That shows growth, and that you're trying to move ahead positive, and that you could take that somewhere else. But if they are willing to help you out, that also shows them at the same time, well, hey, and they want to learn. And also, you could show them what was your thought pattern on when you did this type of thing. And I think when you show the other person your thought pattern, they get a better understanding of how you're thinking. And then it kind of I want to say brings them down to earth and say, okay, your way was right, and you did get the same thing I got. It's just you probably missed one step. So that kind of bridges the gap, like you're saying, Jay. There, like, hey, there's more than one way to, we're gonna say slice an apple.
I like that.
There's
Slice
more
an
than one way
apple
to
is a
slice
good
an
one.
apple.
Or slice an orange.
So
You ever cut the orange what you would perceive like to me cutting the orange is the wrong way when you slice it in four and the sections are whole sections instead of little quarters. You know how you do your grapefruit. I feel like I ain't
that's
cut that
right.
right. But also to piggyback off of that, because there are instances in which there is criticism because you did something wrong, which I feel like automatically is going to send someone who has been in that type of an environment into fight or flight. But there are also going to be times when you get feedback, not necessarily because you did something wrong, but because the perception of whomever it is that's giving the feedback, whether it be a manager, a leader, or a peer, is that we could have done this differently. And here's why I feel like the outcome could have been different. It doesn't even mean that they're necessarily saying that you did it wrong. I feel like in either situation, you should pause before you respond, whether it's taking a sip of your coffee, counting to three in your head, and like Antoine said, check your face, because some of us have what is it? RBS, RBF, I mean.
Yep, RBF. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's me.
RBF. So check your face, don't be counting the three with your face like this, because I can see that you counting the three or you're cussing me out one. Uh, also, I am a firm believer in trigger trackers. And what I mean by that is just kind of like if you're a journaler, write down in your journal the situation that happened, who said what, how did you feel when they said it? And, and be specific about what they said. Use the words that they said as much as you possibly can. I want to tell you guys a story about that too. But when you write down what they said, when you write down how you felt, I want you to try to figure out what it reminded you of, because what'll happen is you'll start to notice patterns in your behavior and or your responses, or worse, your reactions. And that is powerful, but it is also going to be the thing that'll make you go, okay, wait a minute, am I doing that thing again, right? So just start trigger tracking. Start writing down things that when people say, like, I'm gonna tell you what the trigger for me is when I'm talking to somebody and they're explaining something or they're telling me something and I may not be completely getting it. And I ask a question to them, sounds like they've already answered that question, and they go, again, like I said, oh my gosh, when I tell you that word again, to me feels like it feels belittling, even if they don't mean it that way. I already know that that's my trigger. I do not like it. Again, and I've heard people in like customer service environments where somebody's calling in and they're trying to get assistance, and the customer service rep says, again, ma'am. Oh, who again, ma'am, is you? Who are you talking to? Is how I feel. So I know that to be my trigger. And so I will say, when I hear the word again, instead of me reacting to them like, well, if you had explained yourself in a way that I can understand, you wouldn't have to say it again. And that's, instead of me getting stank with them, I say, you know what? I apologize. There is clearly something that I'm missing, and I'm simply trying to get clarification. That brings them down, and it helps me remember that if I'm missing something, that I may not be, even if it's inadvertently, being considerate of the fact that they are attempting to assist me or guide me or direct me. So I feel like that's a good leveler. But I forgot what the heck I was going to tell y'all about before, because I'm drawing a blank. But
Well,
and when it comes back to me, I'll jump right back in with it. And the other thing is when you've learned how to, and of course it depends on how long you've been in that environment, because you mentioned that you had been in an environment where you were belittled and talked down to. And if that's coming from multiple places, like you're in a relationship with somebody who talks down to you, but you've also been in a job setting where you feel like your manager or you actually have been talked down to, that does something to you. And what you want to learn how to do, or what you want to do, is deprogram that memory, and create new memories, so you can do what I guess I could refer to as like practice safe feedback. Like you can get somebody that you trust to rehearse or build new memory that says, I can receive feedback and I can stay calm and I can stay whole, and it doesn't detract from my intelligence. It doesn't detract from my abilities. It's not taking anything away from me. It is simply information that I can receive, that I can add to my toolbox, that I can expound on things that I already do well. I can do even better. So, and I know that for some people that sounds like, I'm going to get with somebody and I'm going to practice. But if you could understand for some people how deep that trigger runs. And so every piece of feedback is a criticism that is a disrespectful, or it feels disrespectful in the manner in which it's given. So your response every time is fight, or you shut down, and your response every time is flight. So yeah, it may sound ridiculous to some people, but there are some people that I know that will resonate with, because they understand that they feel like they're a hot potato. Everything triggers them, and it really does matter. And it really does depend on how often or how long you've been in that environment and subjected to that type of treatment. You want to learn how to trust yourself again. So practicing or learning how to practice safe feedback is definitely going to start to reprogram your mind and dispel some of that stored up trauma that you have, where you'll be less triggered, or you'll be a little bit more aware that you're being triggered, which can give you the opportunity to dial that back and scale that down. And when you find
Yes.
yourself thinking it, reframe it in your mind. When something feels unsafe to me, it doesn't mean that it is. Let me take a minute to determine whether that is the actual case. And I'm a big believer and supporter in what both Antoine and Joe have said. Ask for clarification, ask for more information, ask for additional direction, ask for a demonstration, whatever it is that is going to help you understand that you're just getting more. And that's how I look at it. Instead of someone, because it feels like something's being taken away from you, your pride, your ability, your intelligence, all of that. To me, I look at it as I'm getting something. They're giving me something. I'm getting something else. So I don't automatically go into fight or flight in the workplace, but I'm gonna tell you where it shows up. It shows up, in my personal relationship, or romantic relationship. That's where I have to do the most work. So it's not always going to be in the same environment, but we have the same feelings and triggers and responses. I can hear it in the workplace all day long because I know this is going to sound bad, but I don't have an emotional connection to the workplace. I'm there to do a job, and I am there to create a name for myself professionally, absolutely, but I don't have an emotional connection or attachment to the job. When I leave, that's their company. You know what I'm saying? But in relationships, when you are working hard, trying hard, attempting to give your best in the relationship and to your partner, and to hear what sounds like that's not so, it can make you flight. Okay, watch and see what else I do for you. That means you don't shut down. You ain't doing nothing else. Or it can make you fight. You act like I don't do nothing. No, that's not what they said. They said that they didn't like this, or you didn't do that, or they need more of this from you. So I had to learn how to do exactly what Joe was saying, was to process that in my mind. What is it exactly that they're saying? And then ask for examples. Well, can you give me an example of where you need my support more, or where you need more from me? Or if it's a situation where I feel like that information is not accurate or it's being projected, I will not go, that now you a lie. That ain't true. I will say, well, I don't necessarily agree with you, and here's why. And then I will highlight where I am doing those things and where I am contributing. So in essence, bringing my receipts to the relationship in a loving, directive way, not in a combative way. But it takes a lot of work. So you got some work to do on learning how to create safety mentally and emotionally for you.
Yes, and creating safety for your coworkers as well, like
Yeah,
whoever you're,
absolutely.
um, because they, if you like, oh, now show me where I did that, that's not going to give you the information that you're needing. When you start doing personal work that we're talking about, it also makes you more, um, what's the word I'm searching for? Empathetic, right? Because
Yeah.
other people are dealing with stuff as well, and they may not have all their facts right. They may be responding or reacting based on some trauma that they've had, and um, so we're more empathetic. It makes us more empathetic. We can start asking the right questions. We don't just immediately get into our feelings. Um, we practice letting go of the old trauma that we have experienced. I and Jay, you were saying that you were hitting it right on the head. If you had some a relationship that you were belittled and things of that nature, anytime you feel those same reactions or you feel those same emotions, you want to let that go. Like, I know he said this, but I'm more than a conqueror, or I'm, whatever you need to say to yourself to get yourself
No weapon
to
formed
know
against
who
me shall prosper.
right. And so just being very intentional about your personal growth and how you show up every day is very vital. And it's a work, it's a hard work, but it's a very good work. And when you start practicing and you start take time to yourself. I don't know if I said
Yeah.
this. I feel like I talk a lot, right? And I talk to a lot of people. And but I read in a book and it talked about being in solitude.
Mhm.
And it was so powerful. It said that everybody needs to be in solitude to find out who they are. Then they
That
said
part.
it's equally important to go into to be in community, but you need to be in a community with other people that have found out who they are. And so you become, what happens is you become authentic, right? And
Yeah.
Right.
the other people that's in the group are authentic as well, right? Because when you don't take that time, you start trying to show up as somebody else. You start trying to take on what people think that you are. Oh, you
Yeah.
like this, and you'll hear people say that, and they'll make judgments about you without all the facts. And you, if you don't haven't taken that time, you can't combat that. It's like, well, maybe I am like that. Well, when you've taken that time, you know who you are.
Exactly.
There's no question about it, right? But you're
Yes.
open to criticism, and you're open to find out more about yourself. But some things, that's not me at all. And if you were taking that, if you took me to be that way, I need to examine how I'm showing up, because you're always on, you ain't arrived all the way, but there's some non-negotiables that you have settled to be in your who you are. And if somebody else is getting that feedback or giving you some feedback, then you want to check it and make sure that, hey, that people are not I'm not appearing that way to not just this person who's giving me this information, but other people as well. But if you
Right.
don't take time
Mhm.
to get to know yourself and just really be open to what people are saying about you, then you'll miss it. You'll miss the opportunity to grow.
To
You'll
grow.
miss the
There you go.
opportunity to heal,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Because if it keep on being said, then 9 times out of 10, that's what you're doing, right? And that's how you're showing up. And then you need to take that time and say, hey, how do I need to fix this? What do I need to let go? Where does this stem from? Is there any past relationships or anything like that? Anything in my childhood? And we at Healing and Help, and at a Drulix, we are here for you as well to, sometimes you need to just talk to somebody, talk out the
Yeah.
circumstance. You know what she said, blah, blah, blah. And, and just be all in your feelings while you're saying it. And, when you're in your feelings, when you're saying, when you're recounting, when you're giving an account of a previous
Mhm.
situation and you feel those same emotions, that means you hadn't let it go, right? It shouldn't
Right.
revoke those same emotions. You should be
Yeah.
able to talk about it and without being emotionally there again. Yeah. So that's one telltale sign that, hey, I'm still emotionally tied to that situation and I really need to let that go, right? And sometimes it may take
Really.
a year and a half, but hey, it's there. You just keep letting it go. Practice letting it go.
That's
Somebody
right.
said let go, let go.
Practice
Let
makes
go,
perfect.
let go.
And I just want to say, and we're past our 9 o'clock mark, and we don't harp on we're at an hour, we got to cut it down, and we try to stay within reason, and we want to respect your time, but we also want to make sure that you get all the information that you need. And so, to our listeners and everyone who can relate, here's the reminder. The very fact that you're worried about becoming the problem means that you're doing the work to not be, right? Because somebody that doesn't care about whether or not they are the problem doesn't even realize that they might even need to ask that question. Am I becoming the toxic person at work or in the relationship, however you want to look at it, right? They're not going to ask those questions. The very fact that you're worried about becoming the problem means that you're doing the work to not be. That is awareness. That is the healing process and the beginning of that journey to the healing process. So, the fact that you want to know and avoid that is beyond huge. And what you can kind of feel like sometimes is that you're broken or you're too much. Well, you're not broken, you're not too much. You're healing from spaces that ask you to be smaller, and what you want to do is be your full self within reason and without infringing on somebody else. And that is all we all can do to be the best versions of ourselves. So just remember, you're not too much, you're not broken, and I'm going to leave you guys with a mirror statement, and is, I am safe to receive. I don't need to fight to be worthy. That is, for me, that's huge. I don't know about you all, but I encourage you to say it to yourself before and after work, during work, at lunch, when you're having a meeting, somebody's talking to you crazy, somebody's talking to you in a way that you perceive that's crazy, but they're really just giving you information. Just remind yourself that you are safe to receive and you don't need to fight to be worthy. And, because you've been asked to shrink in these other places, receiving feedback and or constructive criticism doesn't mean you're being asked to shrink again. It actually means you're being asked to get bigger. You're being asked to grow. So that's all I got. Thank you for rocking with us on tonight's episode on the Healing Help Desk. If it spoke to you, share it with your coworkers, your friends, your family, your inner circle, anybody that's trying to unlearn and hustle around those wounds and do the work. Please visit healing.help and adrulix.com to get more support than what we can offer you in an hour. Until next time, take care of your nervous system and remember heal people. Heal people. I was about to say heal and help is everything, but it is. That's all I got. I'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
And don't forget to check us out on our website.
I was about to say, I'm going to pass it to you so you can give them some info.
Oh, yes. Don't forget to check us on our website. It's https, a little / heal in help. There's no .com in there. Just put in that heal in help. And then you can find us also on Instagram. That's heal_in_help. And we're live every Wednesday too for HEALn Hump Day. So don't forget about that.
Yeah, you got to clarify that. Doesn't sound right. It didn't sound like we were doing anything Christian at all on Wednesdays on that live. But the live on Wednesdays is our actual sessions. We do actual work, life coaching sessions with real issues, real problems, real solutions, real steps. I hope to see you there. Be blessed. Light and love to you all. Have a great night. Bye.
Later, everyone. Thank you.